I might have to get stronger circuits for you. Keep adding electronics. I'll have to get circuits pumped up a bit. Bring down the whole neighborhood.
I think you
Add
have
one
a
more light.
grow up in here.
That's right.
Same thing as usual. At one point, like basically it says like 5-10 minutes left.
Okay.
Probably should about an hour.
Okay.
If I have to fix anything, I never mentioned this, but if I ever have to fix something on set, just keep it natural. Like it's just candid, you know. Like if something falls or whatever, like it starts raining, like it is what it is. So
Sure.
it's a live stream kind of thing. So
Okay.
it's not actually live. So.
Live action.
Live but edited.
Here on the
later.
Epicus. Live, that's right.
How long are your episodes? You're trying to like get about 45 minutes of actual. You want the full hour?
This hour has 60 minutes.
Oh wow. Yeah.
All right.
So are we ready, or
Yeah.
are you ready? Where's my camera, by the way, so I know? Yeah. That's me there? Okay. Just move it a bit this way. and to the left.
Oh now, brown cow.
Eli's leaning in.
Who's the
I
third guy?
picked
Is
a
there
peck
third guy
of
talking?
pickled peppers.
Okay,
Okay, I'm
I
ready.
should do that to you once. Like
It's all
Eli's.
fun. Yeah. No, just
As
don't
he's
tell
moving
me.
the camera
Don't
over.
even tell me that you've done it.
What is the welcome to the Epicus? It's Eli over here, my cohort, my partner in crime, and we're going to introduce our guest in a second. But we've talked about the 4 pillars. So this is Jordan Rogers. He is a trainer. He's a martial artist. You're many things. I'm not even going to tell him what you are, because I think you should just tell him some of the things that you've been involved with and you know what's sort of floated your boat. But also my trainer for some things.
Mine as well.
Can I give that away? That's
Yeah.
your trainer as well. Yeah. So we wanted to talk about one of the 4 pillars, which is exercise. So we talk about the 4 pillars of health: it's diet, sleep, stress management, and exercise. And you know we talk a lot about that. Without the 4 pillars, you know, you could do peptides and you could do TRT and you could do all these other things, but they're not magic pills. You know, if you don't have the base foundation, then, you know, the rest is kind of it's not worth it. It's not gonna, there's no magic pill, you know, it takes some effort to be healthy. And Eli and I are both on a health kick, in the sense that we want to expand our health span. Not necessarily our lifespan, but our health span. You know, we want to live healthier, however long we live, live that life healthier. And so, one of the main pillars is exercise. And so we wanted to talk to you about exercise, because I think that's your specialty. Why don't you tell us a bit about who you are? You know, what floats your boat, what gets you motivated, and you know what excites you.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Thank you.
I'm
The
really
honor is
happy.
ours.
Yeah, indeed it is.
Otherwise, we were just talking to each other.
Absolutely. I feel like it's nice to be able just to have this conversation with both of you, and something we probably do naturally anyway. And I love that approach. Your 4 pillars are something I would live by as well. So I'm happy. But about me, again, I'm Jordan Rogers. I run a company called Mighty Maestro Fitness. It's like an umbrella fitness company, because it might be a little hard to explain, but I've been around forever.
You're not that old. You can't, not forever.
So I'm only 39, but I've been around now teaching different martial arts and fitness for 25 years straight.
So you started at how old?
Yeah, I started actually. I had my first actual class that I was teaching at 15 years old.
What kind of
That's
class
amazing.
was that?
That was karate at the time.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. So, like, you've probably heard the theories about how it takes about 10,000 hours to be elite at something.
Yeah.
I kind of look at the paths I've taken as I've got about thousands of hours in to a lot of different things. Maybe not even 10,000 hours of anything, except kind of teaching and managing humans,
Yeah.
understanding what they need. Like, because I find there's a way to unlock every person's potential. Like I've had people that think they hate working out, and after a while, I hear that, and I'm like, sure you do. Just give me some time. We're gonna figure this out together. And then, you know, for some people, they experience what it's like circuit training with music. Other people, they hit pads in kickboxing for the first time, or they grab onto another person and they start grappling on the ground, and then they realize, no, I don't hate exercise. I just hadn't found the right thing for me yet. And so, like, that's a gift. Like, so I sort of realized early on, even as a teenager, learning how to have the confidence to teach adults that it doesn't matter if they're a teenager or an adult, older, there's a gateway for them to be able to enjoy fitness. So it became a mission even early, whether or not I had to wait for it and wade through the working world a little bit and before I could fully realize the dream and start my own company. But there's an avenue for everyone to be able to not just work out, but consistently work out.
And I'll say a couple things from what I know about you, having trained with you now for a number of years, is you're patient, which is a real gift because, you know, I am hard on myself. I'm probably harder on myself than you would be on me. And so your patience allows me to be less hard on myself, you know, and you're kind about it, you know, like you push. I've always experienced that you always push me to beyond what I would want to do.
Yeah.
But in a way that I want to do it.
And it's responsible too, I'll say, based on training with him. Like when he pushes, it's in a responsible manner.
Yeah.
Like he understands, he'll engage, he'll look in your eyes, monitor your breathing. He certainly knows what he's doing as far as managing one person's level of fitness as well.
I appreciate that.
No, it's nothing but true. But.
And then the second thing I wanted to say is that you live it. So not only do you teach it, and people have tried to teach me who didn't live it. And, you know, I don't know that's the end all and be all, but there's something in what you present, you know, in yourself as sort of a testament that you not only believe in it, but that you can make it happen, you know.
No,
You're an example.
I believe that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I there's always been something, it's almost like a mental hang up that I have. If I'm going to ask someone to do a race or a competition, I better be able to do it.
Yeah.
If I need 10 burpees from someone, I better be able to do 20 in the same amount of time, because not only do I want to be able to do what I'm asking of them, I need to know what it feels like, so I know what they're experiencing, and I know what I'm asking of them. And also I want to be at a certain level where they can also aspire, like to be able to grow, like because I think people also need something to look up to, and if that person instructing you can also be that, I think that's pretty big.
Yeah. You have such a wide variety of training skills. I mean,
Indeed, yeah.
I know you do. What do you do?
What are we doing? Some more of a mixed martial arts.
Yeah, we do a mix of all kinds of stuff. Like, and I like your approach too, because I think you want to understand, well, what happens if I do this in the ring, but how does this apply if I also get into the situation in the real world? So we kind of go over both of those things, and I like that approach because I think that is important, and it's nice for you. I'd like you to feel confident, and you've grown to the point where I would be pretty confident that you can handle yourself in a situation like that.
Yeah, without a gun.
Yeah, without a gun.
That's right.
Yeah. With a gun too.
Yeah.
But
Or disarm the guy with the gun.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's nice.
Do you teach that?
Oh, yes, I do. Yeah,
Alright.
yeah. We've done. I've done some courses on disarming guns as well.
Okay,
but
well, hopefully I never have to use it. But the other thing I like, and I'm not just puffing you up here, but this is real.
okay,
Is
continue.
is that you know, well, you could be training, you come over and you're training, and then your wife shows up, and you suddenly switch from this to this, and it's like, okay, now it's a family workout. And
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's really just on a dime, you come up with things that not only you're not trying to get somebody winded for the sake of, you know, making them they sweat. There's a rhyme and a reason to what you do, and even on the spot. I mean, my wife and I often talk about like that. What a great workout! We had fun, but I know enough that I knew that it made sense with your combinations that you put together and how you make it, and it just like no warning. You know, I'm really glad you brought that up.
No, and I really appreciate that.
And I show up with my son, and it's like,
Yeah.
What are we working out? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's figure it out, and then you put it together.
And I think that like it comes from experience for one, and it's something I always wanted. Like, I always thought to myself, there were times when I thought, maybe I'm gonna have a shot at being a world champion in one thing or another. And I went far and won local championships, but really like peanuts compared to some of the people I've trained with over the years. So I always like just took solace in, one, being able to go. I've been toe to toe with world championships and been able to stand my ground, and I'm happy with that.
In what?
In
you say that?
kickboxing and in MMA.
Okay, cool.
But also like that there's something that not everybody has, even world champions not always have the ability to convey their strengths to other people,
Right.
to teach.
That's a big thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I could be the best at something, and it doesn't mean I can teach it.
No, and it often doesn't translate. But I think for me, like that's like, because I've had people that have trained with me for years and years, and they come after a class and they say, you still put together classes, then it's not like anything I've done before.
Yeah.
Somehow, like you're still surprising me, and like that means a lot to me. Like, because like keeping things fresh for people. Not everybody wants to train the same way. I can do it. I can eat the same way and train the same way, and that's something we'll probably get into later in our chat here today. But that's not the same for most people, and I realize they need variety. They need somebody to surprise them. They need a workout that's so engrossing intellectually that they forget about how much pain they're in physically.
Yeah.
And that can happen. And I think that's always been a gift I have, is to almost trick people into giving their best effort, which I think is cool, and I sort of pride myself on being able to be diverse and react to any situation.
You are, for
diversity
sure.
is amazing. The other thing that I want to point out before we perhaps segue into, we wanted to talk about the psychology of
Well, I think
training.
we've done
Right?
puffing them up now. Now we got
One more
now
thing.
we have to go after
Okay.
them. All right, go ahead.
The other thing is it's very difficult to train, in my opinion, to train somebody one-on-one in grappling or self-defense, to put somebody in a choke or a lock, to show them how to do it while you're actually doing it. Do you know, like it's very difficult, and you're able to do that. And if you can do it with me, because I have a hard time knowing my right and left side, so that's another amazing skill that you have.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And if there are any trainers listening, I think a lot of it is like trying to experience different avenues of training. Like if you can train people over video, and it can be very difficult, right? You're going to look at that person and say, move your right foot. Perfect. Okay, just a little farther, but forward. And you're going to need to, without the visual, be able to explain it, or provide a visual like over a very small screen and use that in combination. So, and also like in the day in martial arts, like you might come to a class and you might train a group of very fit 20-year-olds one day and make a plan for your next class based on that, and show up and there's 4 or 5 older women in the class and one kid, and you're like, oh, it's not going to work at all, and you can panic or you can roll with it.
I think he rolls it.
You
pretty
roll
well.
with it.
Yeah, that's it. That's the last compliment you're getting. So going back to your history, because your history, I think, has helped you be so well-rounded. If I remember, you were heading towards professional baseball at one point.
Yes, as a teenager I was. Yeah.
And maybe you could tell us a bit about that. I know you've done competitive fighting. You've done courses in all sorts of kinetics and stuff.
Yes.
Why don't you just tell us? I don't know. I ran out of
There's
ideas.
competitive bodybuilding, there's powerlifting.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, so
yeah,
like
you
I kind of
competed,
said,
yeah.
it's like maybe I didn't even reach the point, like, how they say the Beatles spent over 10,000 hours of practicing or doing shows before they became the Beatles. But it was that moment when they hit that 10,000 hours that they became the Beatles. But the path I took was I never really decided on anything. And maybe it was partly I had some injuries from really poor rural community coaching as a youngster. So it almost gave me a passion to like try to understand that, because I didn't want other people to have to go through that. And in pitching, I had that. I blew my shoulder out really badly at 15 years old, like thinking I was, about to go all the way on the cusp. And it was all because I didn't understand how to properly warm my arm and lengthen my pitch count. Like I didn't even think about pitch count at the time, and it's something pitchers will in a game they won't pitch any more than like between 20 to 40 pitches, and then the next week it might go up 10, and then they'll build it up from there, and that's on top of a shoulder building regimen, long toss, and then understanding how to properly get your shoulder ready to put that amount of strain, trying to throw 90 mile an hour over and over and over again.
Yeah, repetitive.
So you didn't have that.
No, I mean, I'd warm up a little bit, but essentially I was kind of going in like rough and just overthrowing, throwing as hard as I could, and not understanding the process, and then suffer the consequences. So even though I'd put so many hours into baseball, I started shifting the focus to becoming good at different things. And there became a point while I was doing track and field and soccer and basketball, I made it a bit of a mission to be able to play almost everything competitively, because I thought if I was going to be really useful to people, I should be able to understand what they go through in all of their individual athletic endeavors. So I wanted to know what it took to be a pretty decent soccer player, what it took to coach soccer, what it took to play basketball, everything. And while I was doing that, I was always, I'm always somebody that likes to take on way too much. But so while I was doing that, I had my first black belt in karate at 17, and I was already wrestling at a pretty high level. And I was on the practice squad for the national team at 18, and I got my second black belt in another style of karate. So Goju-ryu karate, which means hard soft style, and Shorin-ryu karate were my first two black belts. And then the only reason I didn't continue with wrestling is, again, I'm in a rural community, and we didn't have a bus, and I didn't have access to get out to the training center. So I just kind of kept practicing on my own and just did the best I could. But around that time, actually, my sensei died, and that's a whole other story. But he was like a father figure to me. And when he died, I took about a year away from martial arts.
Oh, wow.
So I was kind of on the cusp of probably where I probably needed to be, like at an 18-year-old national wrestling and a karate prodigy. And if I had some guidance or somebody to take me, a coach, if I was in Ottawa, for instance, I'm sure somebody like Jean-Yves Thériault would have taken me at that point under his wing. It's the perfect time to take somebody. But it's okay. Like, it's funny where life takes you, right? Mm-hmm. So I take that year off, but I start devoting a little more time to fitness. I get certified as a trainer. That was at 19 when I got my first certification. And you just start training people around the area. And it's funny, but as a trainer, there's always this feeling that people take me a little bit more seriously when they're like, yeah, you're a trainer, but you also have 2 black belts, well, now 3. And you wrestled, and you fought MMA and won a title. And there's often like an admiration for that, and they're like, okay, whatever you say. And it does kind of happen that way for a lot of people. And whether it's intimidating at first or not, I think once they spend some time with me, another thing, you start to work on having a disarming personality. And then eventually, it's just like talking to a friend that just happens to put you through a lot of pain.
Yeah. That's how I feel when I train with you. I feel like, you're my friend, but that doesn't get in the way of you.
Breaking your, what did he break on you? A rib or a nose or something?
Cracked a rib, broke a nose.
Yeah, we did break it.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
I mean,
it was a fair fight, though. It was
honestly, Doug broke his own nose. I was punching, but his face went straight in.
I hit his
so
fist
everyone,
with my face,
he's not going to do that to you guys. So.
He headbutted me, as far as I'm concerned.
No, I welcome that. That was I wanted to spar with you like real. I didn't want to, because I was preparing for a fight, so I didn't want to be like pampered,
Yeah, and I think probably to the point where when you were in your fight, I'm sure you didn't get hit with anything that felt quite like that, so it wasn't as scary, right?
There's only one person that I felt that hit harder than you, and that was Jonathan.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
and that's another world champion.
Yes.
So
I got in the ring with him once, and I regretted it. It's like, oh, this guy's just pounding on me. You pound on me, but I think maybe it's like 75%. He was just like doing 100%.
Yeah, he doesn't understand how to hold back. No. That's a whole other story.
Sorry if you're listening. He was tossing me around. He was like just hitting me like I was a punching bag. He's like,
and he had a smile on his face.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And he was being nice about it. He said, "Cover yourself." Boom. Cover yourself. Boom. It's like, oh, come on. Anyways.
So yeah, all that to say, like, Yeah, I've really been around. I later on added Ken Ryu black belt, which is traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu, like more of a self-defense style. But it's really practical and well-rounded real world martial arts, one of the ones I love the most. And I also am a blue belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. But even in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, like when I train with the guys, the brown belts, the black belts, they sort of know my background, and so it's a little bit, it's easy for them to train with somebody that's been around and wrestled and done grappling that long. And even in fitness, I've really tried to dabble in everything because I want to understand injuries, rehabilitation, proper development. And it feels like I've tried so much to do everything, and there's still so much to learn. So let's just keep going, right?
And you recently did a course, I'd say recently, in the last 2-3 years, you did a course on, what was that about?
It was called Mastery of Movement.
Okay.
It's by someone called Bogdan Kojukuru.
Yeah.
And he has a PhD in kinesiology, and a master's in human kinetics. And he's a fascinating guy, and he's developed a couple programs, one called Precision Muscle Control and one called Center Lift, that's about linking the chains of the body together. And he's really helped me. Like, I was when I met him, I was at a place where I was sort of looking like, how do I like really take myself to the next level, because I've really seen so much. But he was an avenue for that, and we should get him on here for a conversation sometime with you.
Would love to, yeah.
Fascinating guy.
Yeah.
And he's taught me, one of the biggest things he taught me was a concept called symptom-free movement, which is it's trademarked by him, so we can't use it. But sorry, Bogdan. And it's something we're going to talk about a lot on once his website goes live and everything. But the idea that a lot of people will have pains and deficiencies in their body, but they'll work against it. Then, they'll do a squat all the way down, regardless of a knee that buckles to the inside or a pain in the lower back. But rather than that, you strengthen above where the symptom is, and then you start to learn how to build the body in place of the symptom so it can support it. Which is a concept I always thought about, but he helped me put that completely into his perspective with that idea.
Well, I don't know if it's coincidental, but in the years I've been training with you, aside from broken parts from impact,
Combat sports.
Yeah, that's right. If you're in combat sports, don't do it if you're not expecting to get hurt somehow. No injuries, like my body actually functions better than it ever has.
That's true. I mean, and the only two we've ever had were from hitting each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have I ever hurt you enough?
Yeah, you broke my pinky toe.
Yes.
On his bionic elbow. Nice. Yeah, I gave him a front kick, and he gave a nice little well-timed block, and that's the only break I've ever had. So
Sweet.
Thank you for that.
All right.
It was a
In
spiral
the history
fracture.
of your training?
Yeah, only one break.
Amazing. And come from you.
Yeah.
But that's the important thing is let's not. There's far more to you than we've spoken about martial arts a lot, but there's far more to your abilities and your skills and your interest in martial arts.
Yes.
And you mentioned, rehab. I mean, great. You helped me with my shoulder. I'm sure some of the exercises, and I do a lot of work on it myself, and I've not seen a lot of these exercises. So that's
Awesome,
an
I appreciate
important.
that.
That's an important component that you bring to the table as well.
And I've tried to do a lot of work with physios over the years where if I have a client with an issue, be able to reach out with them, drop the ego part of being a trainer, reach out to the physio and say, listen, help me with my approach. Let's make sure we're on the same page. And I think that helps me grow as a trainer as well. I think all trainers really should do that. Don't work with the doctors, but work with the physios.
Yeah.
We don't have to get into the issues with doctors.
Trashing doctors?
No.
I'll trash doctors
Didn't we
all
do
day.
that on the last episode?
I think we do it on every episode. Yeah, that's right.
But it's not all doctors, of course.
No,
Right.
not all doctors.
But there are a lot
Just
of doctors.
a lot of doctors.
I guess you could call them an old hat, right?
Old hat.
Those personalities where anything happens, you hurt your ankle and they tell you to rest for 2 weeks. And you're like, what was wrong with their arms, doctor? But anyway, but yeah, I feel like the biggest thing as a trainer, I think that a lot of younger trainers need to overcome is stop acting like you know everything.
Yeah, indeed.
Because you don't. And when you have Eli, you're very well versed and you both research a ton of other styles of training. And if you come to me with something that I haven't heard of, I'm not going to pretend like I have. I'll tell you, whoa, what's that? And I'm happy to look into
Just
it.
that you have this genuine interest in this arena, like you
Yeah.
want to learn more.
Yeah, and there's no shame in that. I think it's important to keep learning and not ever act like an expert. Even if people consider you to be, I think it's important to exercise your humility and realize that there's probably somebody better, and there's probably subjects you aren't aware of.
So before we went live, we talked about, or you brought up that you want to talk about the psychology of training, and I think now would be a great time because it was the little bit we talked about. It was an awesome topic, and I think it would really benefit a
Can
lot
I
of our
just,
listeners.
there's one question I had. Can I just jump in with one question?
It's your show, actually.
It's our show.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
our show. It's our show. I hate to think it's my show. That's a lot of pressure. So I know that you train, like I train with you in classes, and there's probably a range from in the 20s up into, well, 60s apparently.
Old guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
70s actually. Yeah.
70s.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. And then you'll train young people. You'll train guys our age, and then you also train my mother,
Yeah.
who's 88.
Yeah.
God bless
Right.
her.
Yeah, I know, it's unbelievable. And so, I think it kind of goes into the psychology thing. Like there's just that range. Like that's, aside from the range of the kind of training
Yeah.
and kind of training you
Skills
do,
and-
just the range of different people that you train. And,
Yeah.
training my 88-year-old mother is obviously extremely different than training a 30-year-old who just is full of piss and vinegar.
Oh, yes.
She's probably stronger.
Yeah, she's probably got more piss and vinegar.
Yeah, probably.
And I think actually, like early on in my training, like in my personal training career, people would see how I train a younger person or an athlete, and they'd be like, I don't want to train with him. And I think trainers get grouped like that sometimes, and it might not always be fair. But I remember one of my first clients that had fibromyalgia was a real cool challenge for me, and she asked if I thought we could work out. And I said, absolutely, but what we have to do is work together, and I'm going to consult with somebody that's a specialist in fibromyalgia along the way. And I'm going to learn with you, and I think it'll be great for both of us. So I think, again, that's like an idea of like dropping that ego and saying, no, let's learn this together. And that was a situation where my initial recommendation was to find a center, and she had tried that before, but what she found was at the fibromyalgia centers, they understand what she couldn't do, but not so much what she could do. So based on what she could do and like my ideas of like trying to understand range of motion, building range of motion, and that concept of symptom-free movement, that was even before I had the full concept. But the idea that, especially with somebody like that, what they need to do can't cause them too much pain, because that could be debilitating for them long term. So it's like a very dangerous thing for a trainer, and I think a lot of trainers might run away from a situation like that, and I don't blame them. But I took it as an opportunity to grow. So I said, let's go step by step, and I think that approach allowed me to see the scope of being able to train people with knee injuries, or understanding, you're of a certain age and you've never trained, and like, how are we going to take this from the ground up as though you're a teenager learning how to play sport or exercise for the first time, but you're not, you're 75. So how do I make you grow in that same way, understanding that your joints have already developed, some of them have arthritis, you might have some fusing, and you have creaks and crunches in your body that you never would have had before. Can I still grow a person like that? And the answer seems to always be yes.
Well, perfect example. This is not about me, but I am a perfect example. Is
Yeah.
when I started kickboxing, when I started training in martial arts. I remember, I don't know if you recall, but I had back issues.
Mhm.
Where I had some serious muscular
Yeah.
back issues, where I was out of commission for over a month, and it was core. And so you started working on my core
Mhm.
and building up my core. And since then, I've been flawless. It's
So
like,
that's years ago, I take it?
yeah, that's not that long ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
But no more issues with the back?
No more issue with the
Amazing,
back.
yeah.
No, yeah, when we started working, like maybe after your surgery, we started really focusing on
Yeah,
it. So yeah,
And you really pushed my core,
Mhm.
and I hate core, but I love core now because of the effects it has,
Yeah. Well, and the idea was, what I thought for you is that your core had trouble linking together to create a foundation for your body. meaning that I felt like your back and your core weren't working together.
Yeah.
So what I was trying to do was give you things where your glutes, your hips, your core were starting to link together until eventually they became what I think is one of your strongest parts of your body. Well, you can do. Doug does this hanging leg raise that I can take a 25-year-old athlete, and I'm not confident they're going to be able to do the 15 hanging leg raises like you do.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a strength for you now.
Yeah, it is.
Which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Which gives me a real sense of confidence because, having that insecurity, instability in the back, always, kind of like the heart thing. It's like it always kept me nervous,
Yeah.
And now that I have that strong core that you've helped me build, it gives me a confidence to do a lot of other things too.
Yeah, not just in the gym, not just on the mat or whatever.
In the
sack.
Well,
Here we go again.
It's always gonna
Every
be back to that.
episode. Yeah.
But that is big for everybody, and I think of that as I want people to feel good in their skin. I want them to feel great in the bedroom. I want them to be able to take their clothes off and perform in and out of the bedroom and feel happy with what they have. And not only that, but feel like proud. Feel like, I'm a sexual tyrannosaurus. That's a Jesse Ventura quote.
Nice. So back to your, you were going on about that.
On the whole psychology of training. Yeah, why don't you pick up where we discussed before where we're live?
Absolutely. Eli and I were talking a little this morning about how I find everything in fitness, but not just in fitness, in any individual's life, it starts with a choice. And one of the concepts we were talking about is how it starts first thing in the morning. My wife snoozes 5-6 times. She just does not want to relinquish her hold on that pillow.
That may be a common thing amongst women, though. I don't know.
Maybe, and some other people,
My wife's the same.
I shouldn't say.
Yeah.
So I didn't technically
Sorry,
say.
Natasha.
Yeah.
Apologizing to a lot of people during this podcast. But then there's the other side of it, or maybe you have both, where you also get out of bed and you cannot functionally start your day until you've had your coffee, or some people also need to have that breakfast. And the reality is you don't need any of that. You need what you think you need. And I found for me, and it started with the idea that if I go to bed with the idea that I can't wake up in the morning, that I'm going to have trouble waking up in the morning, or I'm not going to get enough sleep, how am I going to pull this off? I mean, I'm right. It's that old concept of one person thinks they can and one thinks they can't. They're both right. And it's really the psychology of that does hold true, as cliche as it is. But so I think it starts, and it's not as simple as going to bed saying, I can do this, or having a mantra. Because you might not
Although
succeed.
that's not a bad start, though.
It's not a bad start. It's like you may not succeed, but you can't go, okay, well, I tried it, but it didn't work the first time. It's going to take time for it to become a habit. But once something becomes habitual for a human being, it becomes easier and easier. And that goes for everything. So all that habit then becomes work ethic, but it all started with that choice. So that once you've made that choice, and it could be as simple as getting your ass out of bed in the morning, saying, you know what, the alarm's going to go off and I'm going to pop up. And then you start making other choices, like you eat right, you exercise, and those turn into habits. Getting out of bed doesn't even require a choice anymore because you are so energetic and ready to take on your day because you have all of those elements that you require. It becomes you, yeah.
But like you said, it's a choice, and that's important to know. And it's important to know that discipline is far more important than motivation.
Yeah.
And discipline is a choice as well.
It is. Yeah, it's almost like I always look at it like, especially for workouts in the gym, it's a debt between me and myself. And I've always paid it. It's something where if I don't make it to the gym 5 to 6 times in a week, I say, okay, that's okay. Maybe I got busy. That's not the level that I want from myself. So, okay, let's do it again next week. And I think the mentality and the consistency of that comes with the idea that I know a lot of people, they come really hard at workout programs or diet programs, but they come at it with the mentality of like, let's go until I reach this certain point. But they're not trying to develop a consistent life approach.
That speaks volumes to me. And we've talked about that, about life changes, not flash in the pan changes,
Yeah.
not even a goal necessarily. Like, let's talk about, let's say, losing weight. Rather than having a goal, I want to lose weight, have a goal that I want to add something to my protocol that maybe it'll ultimately help me lose weight.
Yeah.
But it's just a lifestyle change I'm making.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see what comes of that. And then add another change, and we'll see what comes of that. And, it becomes your life rather than something you're trying for a brief period to achieve this acute goal, like.
Yeah, agreed. I feel like there's this Western culture matrix that's programmed us all. We need a lot of sleep. We not only sleep, we need a lot of rest. We need coffee to get up in the morning. We need certain foods to feel happy. We can't exercise too much because we'll wear ourselves down. We can't work too much. But a lot of that, I think, is stuff that's programmed into us. So it almost becomes, it's hard to break for people.
Yeah.
So I think it almost becomes part of like your culture as a human being. And if you're not aware of it and you don't start trying to make choices, trying to break that culture, or you don't feel the need to, then it might not be something you wake up to until you meet the right person.
Yeah. So what do you think about the idea, like when you start someone in training, because you're going to have, there are people maybe like Eli and myself who have been maybe training on and off for years. And so we really want to do something, and we kind of have an idea that it takes a lot of work. But you're going to have people who come to you fresh, maybe never trained before.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that people have asked me about diet, they know that, okay, I'm relatively healthy for my age and whatever. And they say, well, what do you know? My first thing I tell them is don't try and do it all at once.
Yeah.
Do one thing, maybe two at most, and do those for a period of time. And those will become part of your norm. And then you can add a third thing or a fourth thing,
Becomes less intimidating that way as well.
Yeah, and it's more realistic, Like I think people who try and dive in is maybe for training. I want to be a Olympic athlete in 6 months. Okay, well, good luck, unless you're like superhuman,
Yeah.
Or Eddie the Eagle. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
It was great.
Absolutely. That's an adorable movie, actually.
Yeah.
Well, and or you're genetically just like, you just have all the right stuff. You're a mesomorph.
But even that takes work.
It does. It always takes work. And I've always thought, like, I'll take somebody that can be a hard worker over somebody that's gifted.
Yeah.
Always. Like for any sport. And if somebody has both, that's where you get your Michael Jordans and your superstar athletes. Like
so what do you do when you get someone coming to you fresh, maybe in their 30s, 40s, 50s, doesn't matter, and they've never worked out before, they suddenly want to try something new in their life. How do you ease them into that or get them into that without, them after a month saying, I haven't made any progress and it's too hard?
That's a great question, because I think that's one of the hardest parts as a trainer or an instructor, like a teacher in school. And a lot of teachers in school, they have to follow certain guidelines, and it's like almost out of their control. So I have a lot more freedom than that. But it's like, you can almost think of it like make everything quantifiable. So if you get to whether it be cardio, weights, or just your approach to your lifestyle, it's all measurable when you think about it. So maybe, like if you grab a pair of 10 pounds and the first time we try it, you've done those 10 times. Okay, we're going to take a note of that. Later on, it's going to be 15. I swear to you, we keep at it, and later on, it'll be 20. So like the approach is the idea that like we're starting out, you're going to work with me once a week, and then here's what you're going to do on your other days, and we're going to start building your body to be able to support more. Once you're able to support more, you're going to be like, you know what, I'm ready 2 to 3 times a week. And then maybe that's good for that person. And maybe they're like, you know what, let's go. I want that next level. I'd like to be in the shape of my life. And we start saying, okay, like here's little changes we're going to make in your diet, your lifestyle. I don't even like the word diet. And then we're going to keep putting things into your training and understanding how to develop, understanding what supplements to use, what to eat, so that you feel good and you're able to support the style of training until it's your lifestyle and it's not a question anymore, basically.
No, it's not a something I'm choosing to do every week. It's something I've done for a long time, and I always do it. I may take a break once in a while because, like you said, something comes up, but it's something I miss.
Yeah, Yeah, like if you were to take 3-4 days away from it, you're like, I need to get to the gym. It's
Yeah.
just who I am.
Actually,
Right?
yeah, exactly. It's like, well, that's it, exactly. So, actually, you did that with really well with my son, right? So, Jaden started training
Yeah,
with
some
me.
trial and error in there, but yeah.
Yeah, well, he started training with me, and then I said, well, let's. Why don't you come join me with Jordan? And you tend to push a little harder, but then you scaled it back a bit for him because he was really hating it.
Yeah.
He was like, oh,
Yeah.
not a Jordan workout. I'm like, and I'm like, okay, well, come on. And so then you adjusted it to sort of meet his level.
Yeah.
And now he actually looks forward to training with you. Like it's no longer, I don't hear the complaint in the car ride all the way to the gym. Like, oh, I don't want to train with Jordan. It's like, oh, we're training with Jordan. Great.
And part of that is he also experienced some of the results.
Yes.
Increased strength, like increased body awareness, stability, or just looking in the mirror and saying, whoa.
Yeah, we got to get rid of a few mirrors. He's not looking in the mirror way too many times.
But yeah, all those things go a long way. And when somebody starts to build confidence, the training side becomes easier.
So do you have clients who come to you new out of the gate, doesn't matter how old they are, and they want to train, and you just come to a realization at some point that it's, with this person, it's going to be near impossible just because of their psychology, their mentality around training. And
I hate to admit that, but yeah.
well, that's not a failure on your part.
Well, it's funny, but like I almost take it like that because it's because there are challenges. Like I've had people who are workaholics. One lady whose name obviously won't be mentioned, but she worked a lot. She's had that classic entrepreneurial mentality of like starting something but never quite finishing it, and like always having the idea to keep working out, but like and then coming back around to it and stopping, coming back around to it. But her lifestyle and her mentality just couldn't support consistent choices. And I just use her as an example because that's the one time I've ever had to just say, listen, until you commit to this and until it's something that you want to do for yourself, I can't be there for you. Like I don't think it's working.
Yeah.
So yeah, and like that could happen, right? And it's a hard one to admit. It can be because like I do feel like there's a gateway for her, but until she becomes right and becomes comfortable with herself mentally and emotionally, then she's not ready for that next step.
That's a very good perspective to have. I mean, that whole, you can take a horse, not that she's a horse, to water. It's like, anyway, you can't force them to do it. That choice, and it comes back to that choice, which is, I think, is a very important topic.
Yeah, like I'm a professional door opener, but I can't, if they have to walk through it.
So you must also have people who come to you who want the quick fix.
Yes. And
unless I'm wrong, I don't think the quick fix exists.
Well, it depends on what quick fix.
I mean, I want to be a pro bodybuilder in a month. You always have, for example, at the gym, there's always a rush in January. The, what do they call it? The New Year's resolution, right?
Yeah.
New Year's resolution. So in January, February, you see this rush of people, and then the gym empties out in March, because they didn't achieve whatever ridiculous goal they wanted to achieve in a month,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like amazing. We always would joke, like when I was running martial arts facilities or dojos, we had this one year where we had a record, like I think it was 60 signups early January, which for a martial arts facility, it's like, because they're committing to long-term memberships, right? And then a record, I think it was 65% cancellation of all of their memberships in February, which is wild. And these are all people that probably barely went to class. There's a cancellation fee involved, and it's like such a silly thing. But and it makes you wonder how many people North America wide are doing things like that based on a resolution, rather than saying, okay, these are steps I need to make, or I need to change my lifestyle, like we talked about, because it doesn't start with a huge step. It has to start with a little step.
So do you sort of dive into their motivation? Like my motivation, I think your motivation as well, is we want to live healthier. We want to increase our health span, right? We just want to live healthy lives. We want to feel good. So there's no quick fix to that. That's a process to get there. And then you get to a point and you maintain it. You can improve with time, but you maintain. So there's a mentality behind it. It's not like I want to be the most fit person in 2 months. You know, that's not a reality, right?
And it's also a problem, that kind of mentality, because and there are a lot of young people that have access to pretty incredible steroids, SARMs,
Yes.
peptides, which are, I mean, a much better option, but they have access to a lot of things that culturally people haven't had access to before, especially like at such a large scale and such easy access.
So easy.
Yeah, and it's like as simple as like I've had clients try to order, like I think off Amazon, literal steroids, which is kind of crazy. Like, and it's like maybe you just don't take those.
That's right.
Just in case, like somehow there's been like liquid form Anavar and well, anyway, yeah. So that's a whole other story. But like, when you take an easy path like that and you say, okay, I'm going to do this wild diet, take some steroids, and then do some crazy training based on how I feel on those steroids, there's inevitable physical and psychological crash that comes from that. And it's pretty rampant in the bodybuilding community where, and I'm sure you've seen it a lot at the gym, this person's just in incredible shape. They go do a competition, and about 3 months later, you're like,
They look like
is that
crap.
the same person?
Yeah. I've seen it.
And I felt that crash before. And like that kind of goes back to what I said before, is like, as I really wanted to experience everything. And I've done a classic physique and a natural bodybuilding competition.
Which is the one you did last?
That was physique.
That was physique.
Yeah. And you suck every ounce of fat out of your system, and you go up there for the pageantry and it's a very fake environment, and you've created this statue of yourself, and it's an incredible feat. But along the way, you've deprived yourself so much that you've created a minor eating disorder and sometimes a very major eating disorder in yourself. And that kind of deprivation, it causes people to backlash. And I did. I mean, a lot of the times I'm lucky enough to train so hard that even when I'm eating terrible, the backlash doesn't last that long.
You did. I remember now. Actually, you
Yes.
did backlash, and
hard, yeah.
Yeah, you went for like about 6 months, I think, of like.
Where I went more lax on the diet.
Yeah,
I did,
pretty lax,
and
yeah.
my very first bodybuilding competition, I weighed in on stage at 141.
Oh,
It was So I had
By
to
the way,
make
I don't know if you can see this on camera, but Jordan's pretty buff, so 141 is pretty
That's
either
just
very lean or no
ridiculous.
muscle. Or
no.
It was a shredded up orange monster on that stage.
like, what's your normal weight now? Like, what are you at now?
I usually walk around between 180 and 195.
Lean.
Lean.
So
Pretty lean, yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
141 is insane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's
it
just-
was kind of insane because I started that cut at 196, and it was just a challenge that for some reason I was like, okay, I need to know what this is. And I like that I experienced it because I also, again, like, I was like, afterwards I'm like, I need to taste pizza and candy and donuts, and I need it all.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
way you get your clients as well, though. I mean, you understand what some of these clients
Yeah.
would have gone through because you've experienced it.
Yeah,
yourself.
and that's important, like, is to, like, I've made all the mistakes too. So I can say, no, I've done
Yeah.
that. Trust me.
Trust me, that's right. Yeah.
Will you
It doesn't
stop
work.
somebody, like, if you have a client that you've known well enough for years and you're on a friendly, very friendly terms, which I'm sure a lot of them are because you're just a great guy. Would you give? Yeah, we need a whole episode just to puff them up. Right?
That's right.
Would you intervene if you see somebody going down which might be considered a wrong path or taking
Yeah.
drugs that they,
Yeah, and I
Or-
have had to. Yeah, because like I said, that culture can be really strange because there's also that side where a teenager hasn't really unlocked their genetic potential yet, but they get on these steroids and they feel invincible. And there becomes almost like an addiction to that. And you see a lot of guys like that have bodybuilding careers, and a lot of people wonder, why are they so short? Like even some have like come back, and Ferrigno, like into his I think he was about 47 when he did his very last little comeback bodybuilding company, and he looked amazing. And Ferrigno is an example of a guy that's probably done the research and cycled off properly and learned how to like approach it. But a lot of guys, they take so much and they put so much in their body that it becomes a reliance, and it's hard to give up. because you can eat a lot more of whatever you feel like, and then your training doesn't have to be as hard as some of those guys that aren't taking anything, and that's really detrimental to them mentally. So they start to take more, and they start to take more. They cycle off, and they can't wait to get back on. So they go through like these hills and valleys where they're overeating, overindulging, undertraining, and
Feeling superhuman and feeling
yep,
like
pop
crap.
back on their cycle, feel superhuman again, and then they're pretty old by the time they're in their 40s. Their joints hurt because while they were training, they were doing things that they hadn't really built the support systems to do,
Right.
but they couldn't feel that. They didn't have they were way too in superhuman mode to feel that, and
Well,
that's
So
one
who's the
side
guy
of
who
it.
just who destroyed his back there is in a wheelchair now?
Oh, Ronnie Coleman.
Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, probably another example of that, and somebody that's learned so much about training, like I believe he's been able to come back from that too. But that being said, like
But it
how
was hard
old-
for him to stop.
yeah, and
Like
how
he was
old's Ronnie
popping,
Coleman, right? Like,
and he was popping screws out of his back every time they fixed it, right?
yeah, yeah, and as far as like longevity of like a real comfortable, strong physique, a lot of like bodybuilders and powerlifters don't have that. They're not going to be like you guys where they're functionally strong, fast, and feeling great.
Certainly not in their 50s and 60s.
50s, 60s, 70s, and
Yeah.
beyond, right? Like, and which we're learning more and more that it is possible. And there's like another side of that, like where, especially in women's physique, there's so much pressure on them to show up on stage, shredded with those incredible physiques, like and the roundness in the right areas. And there's a backlash that a lot of them experience, and a body dysmorphia that comes from that, where after a competition, they indulge and they don't look like they did on stage, and it's never good enough anymore.
Yeah, it's not realistic.
Yeah.
It's not a realistic
Yeah,
goal to meet. I mean, for some people, maybe because genetically they can do that, but for the average person, that body like you had on the stage, and that they can have, my wife did the fitness
Yeah.
it was a physique competition,
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
and that's not maintainable. Not in a healthy way, anyways.
No, and because of the extreme nature of any competition, it's not like the idea of weight cutting or having to recompose yourself or sucking the last bit of water and sodium out of your system before stage. It's just inevitable that kind of extreme diet, like even people that do, I think we talked about this morning too, like whatever it is, keto or Atkins, if they're not approaching it from the idea that these are minor things that I'm building as an actual lifestyle change, like you talked about, it's not going to be sustainable. People can be sustainable athletes if they take those steps that we're talking about, where they start to understand this makes me feel good, this could be part of my lifestyle long term. But a lot of people take that approach, that more competition style, that short term, I need to have all of this right now approach, where they don't care if it's long term. They have that short term outlook where they'll do whatever's necessary to get there. But it's hard to look back and be like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
Because once you look back, you're like, no, I don't want to do that again. So it almost takes people into a lull. And a lot of people that have done competitions, you can see them 5 to 10 years later, and you wouldn't guess
No.
that they've done a competition before.
Well, you've I'm not going to say, but I know that there's a couple of people you've introduced me to who you said, oh yeah, they competed in this and that. I'm like, oh really? Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
I would never meet them. Go, oh,
Yeah.
you look like you competed in something.
Yeah, and then you have guys like me that I've had a six pack for 25 straight years.
Yeah.
And like that's an accomplishment, but I've never won a professional world championship.
Yeah.
And there are guys that have won world championships or been elite athletes. They get out of their sport and there was so much pressure and there was so much hard dieting, hard training, that it became something that they didn't see as their lifestyle anymore. It seemed once they got out of that sport or out of that competitive lifestyle, it became something they wanted to escape, not something they wanted to continue.
Yeah.
You'll see the old baseball player commentating on a game and he's got a big belly.
Yeah.
But he was an amazing athlete in his
Yeah,
day,
it's amazing. You see that all the time.
right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to wrap up soon. Maybe I could just pose a question. If you could give advice, maybe a few tidbits of wisdom to anybody who wants to train, who wants to get into shape, wants to be a healthier, just wants a better life, what few bits of wisdom
And
could you
at the
offer?
end of those bits of wisdom, perhaps a shameless plug. I don't know if you have time for any more clients, but I think people listening are going to want to contact you, and maybe you could leave whatever information, a website.
I
or
will.
whatever it is
I
that
do
you-
have time for more people in my classes, so I'll get to that. Yeah, after. I think the biggest thing is be realistic, be honest with yourself, because there's a different training style for everyone. So some people need a trainer, and I think it's okay to admit that, because like, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be in business if they didn't. And that's cool. Like some people need a trainer once a week because that's going to give them guidance and motivation. And there are some people that they're gonna need a trainer. Maybe they might need it every day, or they might need to check in with their trainer every day. So first, try to establish what you need for you, because not everybody, if you're honest with yourself, is going to be able to go to the gym every day and sustain it, and that's okay. And it's okay to have someone to check in with. So I think start with that, and then once you're there, like try to measure your progress. Like understand that you're gonna need to take steps in your lifestyle, in your diet, in your training, and that they don't need to be extreme.
So be patient with yourself
Be
as well
patient with yourself, yeah. Because if
in the process.
in fact, if they're not extreme, you have the possibility of sustaining a physique and a lifestyle and a health level that you'll want for good. It's something that you can keep up for your whole life. But if you start with the wrong mentality, it might be something that you develop a distaste for and you don't return to.
I was just on that note, I'm not patting myself on the back, but because I've been training with you and, I did this 3-hour course, and what do they call that? Like a rope course and whatever. And there was most of the people we did it with were younger. And I was talking to my wife about, I used to do a motocross with my friends, and they're all about my age. And they stopped doing it because they'd finished the day and then they couldn't walk for days, and I would not feel it the next day. Like it would just be another day for me, right? And that's the difference between being patient and building up something that you can just go. I could go do the course 3 hours yesterday and I didn't feel anything today,
I know that course. It's tough.
Yeah.
Like it's an aerial obstacle course.
And that brings up a good point. I'll mention this really quick. If you do work out or you're just starting and you work out and it hurts for a week, be patient with that. It doesn't always feel that way.
And it's a good pain, by the way.
Don't let that scare you away from working out, or make you think you've got to do less intense style. All it means is you just haven't built all of your stabilization. You haven't built yourself from the ground up to be able to support that kind of workout yet. That's okay. Just don't be afraid to rebuild, go back to the basics and start from scratch and make sure you're ready for it.
Amazing advice. Who are you again? Tell us who you are. What's your company name, and how can our listeners?
I'm Jordan. In martial arts, they used to know me as the Maestro. Long story there, but the company is called Mighty Maestro Fitness. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or mightymaestrofitness.com. One of our big pulls, we do a lot of classes, especially hill boot camps in the summer, and circuit style training in the winter. And we dabble in other things, but you can find all that online. So yeah, please check us out. We'd love to see you. And one of our mottos is whether or not we can help you or not, we just love to meet you and be part of your fitness journey. And if inevitably we point you in a different direction and it makes you happy, then we're happy to be that middleman too. So
the real deal, man. We got to get him back.
Yeah, we barely scratched the surface.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
great
thanks.
to be here with you guys.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Jordan.
Jordan.
That's awesome. We definitely have to pick this up in another session and dive deep into some of the specifics. But
Oh, he just knows too much. We got
too much, man. You're
Yeah.
too smart.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm going to be puffed up.
That's right. You're patting yourself all the way back. home. All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
How we do, Patrick?
How was it with the lighting with the